A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
You got grow up, mother. Are you kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Gallant Says podcast, available live, twitch.tv/Gallant Says or youtube.com/Paul Gallant, but also available in podcast form, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. It is 1:04 p.m. on Tuesday, January 24th of 2023. If you're out on the go, I hope you're doing all right if you're in the greater Houston area. It is windy as fuck right now. There is a lot of rain going on. And yeah, bringing up weather is generally some of the worst small talk to ever bring up, but little intimidating walking from the studios at ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 to my car and from my car to the inside of my apartment. I read a book this weekend, finished it finally. It's a very long book. It's called The Devil's Chessboard. It is about Alan Dulles, the CIA, and the rise of America's secret government. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Paul, did you just pull a LeBron James and only read the first couple of pages of the book? No, I read this, and as you can see from the millions of Post-it notes that I put in it that will probably never be looked at again, I went through this book with great detail, and it took me a while to actually finish it, seeing as it is in total, let's see here. If you count the index, 686 pages. Long book. Anyway, it details Alan Dulles, who became the head of the CIA after doing spy work in Europe before and during World War II, and how he helped the actual CIA amass a truly incredible amount of power. And as you go through the book, you're just going to get more and more and more depressed about some of the things our country has done. Because you want to think that we're the good guys as the United States of America, and technically, we were the good guys in World War II, helping out and invaded Europe, free itself from the clutches of the Nazis and stopping an imperial Japan from overtaking in brutal fashion the entirety of the Southeast Pacific and also, on top of that, China. So in those moments, you think to yourself, your grandfather might have fought in World War II. Both of my grandfathers fought in different theaters. You want to have the moral high ground. And I think we did. I just think the CIA was morally dubious when it comes to dealing with Nazis before the actual end of World War II and the way that we brought them into our service, not just to help make rockets, but also to help serve as essentially buffers against Soviet expansion in Germany, in Italy. And it gets worse and worse as you go through it and you realize, oh, we kind of fucked up Iran. Oh, we kind of fucked up a bunch of countries in South America, around the Caribbean, Cuba. And it gets to the end where there's 100 pages or so that pretty clearly point in a specific direction when it comes to who might have been behind the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and a couple of pages later, his brother, Robert Kennedy. It's a great book, and it has me thinking about conspiracy theories, because right now, there is one in the National Football League, at least in the eyes of some. As someone who, not to pat myself on the back here, but as someone who has gone to a really good journalism school, and on top of that has been working in sports journalism, but to a lesser extent, news journalism for a decade, you're supposed to be really skeptical. You're supposed to always look at things and wonder about the veracity of it. And I'm surprised the liberties with which some people have been jumping on this possibility that what we saw at Sunday's game between the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals was some massive NFL conspiracy. Let's just go back to when Damar Hamlin had cardiac arrest in the middle of the field in the middle of a Monday Night Football game and had to be resuscitated twice. Just go back to that moment in time. You definitely might have seen, if you follow a couple of people who are politically inclined, questions being asked about whether or not this was related to the vaccine. I don't know why people thought of that immediately. The guy got hit brutally in the chest. I think it was a bang bang, holy shit, the worst possible luck for Damar Hamlin kind of moment. So I'm not going to give that any credence, but I saw that and I thought to myself, man, this could get even louder. Rumors, conspiracies like this with more time. So it's interesting to see the way that people have reacted to what seemed to be an awesome moment. Damar Hamlin showing up at the Buffalo Bills Stadium, and while there,
looks
riling
like
the crowd up.
Hamlin is.
So let me turn the volume down on here. Here is a video that people are starting to wonder about. You see a truck with two security guys and a person wearing blue, white, red jacket with goggles on that's clearly bundled up. You can understand why, right? It was snowing at this game. But people see this video that I'm showing right now, twitch.tv/Gallant says, youtube.com/Paul Gallant, and they're like, wait, we never actually get to see a clear picture of Damar Hamlin here. I don't know the relation that Hamlin has with this kid and this woman, but they are supposedly Damar Hamlin's family. That's at least what the CBS broadcast said as they walk into the stadium. Hamlin family. It seems like they came separately from Damar. And I think some people are looking at that and thinking to themselves, was that actually Damar Hamlin? Then you have this moment during the game as we go to Hamlin in what looks like the owner's box. So he's got the hood on. He's got one of those gaiters on. It looks like his family, the youngest member of his family, is sitting next to him. And people are looking at this video.
Yeah, he did. This is
and
it
since
right
you
here.
don't get to
What
see
a
Damar
scene.
Hamlin's face there or there, in this little shot where you're seeing a ton of snow that's in the window, people are like, well, was that actually Damar Hamlin? Is Damar Hamlin dead? And again, what I want to say is, relax. Do we have to assume that there is some sort
What
of
a beautiful
conspiracy
triumphant
going
story
on
that
here?
Gal-
I can understand why some people would ask, wait, is that him? I can't 100% tell. But does that have to be where we immediately go? Maybe it should, Paul, if you're an actual journalist, seeing as you just gave us a preface to introducing this video to us. Okay. Well, let's take a look at something else. Because some people were suggesting online that there is a body double for Damar Hamlin, or that, in fact, the government has cloned Damar Hamlin, which is particularly funny to me because I don't think that that's something that we have the capability to do. But hey, I am watching Blade Runner 2049 for the second time. Replicants, they're a thing in a sci-fi movie. Maybe we have cloned Damar Hamlin. So he posted this picture on Twitter, clone with a ninja emoji, and he posted that yesterday. I think he's fucking with them. That's it. He's fucking with them. And some people are like, but you still don't see his picture. Come on, guys. Just can we really just believe that something good happened? Smoke and Joe says, if the public hadn't been lied to so much over the last 100 years, we might not think everything is fake. Zach the Texan goes on Twitch, this is hilarious to think the government would get involved to cover up for the NFL. I agree. Like, at a certain point, we have to sit back and realize, all right, maybe we're being a little bit ridiculous. So I like that he's fucking with them here. And I actually have a conspiracy theory, because I do think that there is something that is fake out there. Let me show it to you. I don't believe this is a real Dallas Cowboys fan. I don't. I do not think that this is real, and I'll explain why. You can watch this again on twitch.tv/GallantSays or youtube.com/PaulGallant if you're listening in podcast form. So there's a video of a Dallas Cowboy fan in some sort of man cave, family room. I'm not 100% sure. This Dallas Cowboy fan is wearing a lot of the same things that I jokingly suggested an annoying Cowboy fan would wear yesterday on the radio and yesterday on this very podcast. The guy has as you can see, I'm pointing at it with the cursor right now, Cowboys jersey that is honestly looking like something straight out of Desert Storm. It's one of those camo jerseys. He is also wearing jorts along with flip-flops inside and a backward cowboy hat. This man proceeds, as you can see in the video right now, after watching that last play that the Cowboys ran, which was a joke, to stand up, punch the TV as hard as he can, intimate at it, and then knee it with his left knee. And then looking around and freaking out. And there seems to be a casual indifference to this from the people that are around him, no? Like that lady to his left is looking away. That guy to his right is chuckling. And then he picks up the Cowboys decor and he throws it on the ground. It seems like it's real, right? I don't know. What is happening? What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. This Cowboy fan is a TikToker looking to get clout. Now, how much do I have to base this off of? Because I'll be perfectly honest. Like many people who believe conspiracy theories, I'm too fucking lazy to actually look into who this guy actually is. However, let's just take a look at the fact that there is another camera angle? What? Another camera angle of the exact same incident. What? Where he punches this TV, then he knees this TV. And I'm just going to point out all of the issues that I have with this incident, okay? I'm just going to list them all for you. First off, I think it is hilariously on brand that this guy is wearing a camouflage Cowboys jersey and wearing jorts. And I also think it's suspicious that the television that everybody is watching this playoff game in is a 32-inch television that's been placed on top of a shelf with a couch that is looking directly away from it. This shelf has a couple of handles of liquor in it. Oh, did you also notice that that wall has literally nothing on it outside of an easy-to-remove Cowboy football that looks like it might have been taped on because you don't even see a nail up there. Huh. And let's go to those TVs, as Zach the Texan points out. That TV was very small. He didn't want to spend a lot of money for the Grammar TikTok. Do you know how much those televisions cost at Walmart? I actually went to Walmart the other day, was walking around. You might have heard me ranting about how depressing it is whenever you go in there. Those televisions, 32 inches, smart TVs, cost $100 now, thanks to rollbacks. $100. Like, this is staged, and it's part of an agenda to continue to talk shit about Dallas Cowboy fans. How am I all of a sudden the biggest Cowboy fan honk that there is? Maybe they should hire me as a lawyer or something like that. But that is fake. It is not real. And to go back to some points that were made earlier, yes, there are so many things that are fake today, whether it's the government saying it to us or it's just a bunch of asshole TikTokers saying it to us. There's so much fake out there, it's tough to believe anything. I, however, am not going to go dive down the Damar Hamlin rabbit hole. I don't think we have that much to go off of other than a couple of images. I'm going to go off of that, though, that video of a Cowboy fan punching and kneeing his television, and I will tell you this. That is fake. That ain't real. Smoking Joe says, you can't even see the game from the couch on that TV. You're right. The couch, again, is facing away from the TV. Oh, boy. I'm glad a lot of you guys are thinking along the same lines. But now I'm wondering about this. What is your favorite NFL conspiracy theory? Kyle Mulkey has this comment. Coming from Seattle. I think, and youtube.com/Paul Gallant, he watches on that. I think Seattle throwing at the 1 is a conspiracy theory. So for those who don't know, remember Super Bowl 49. The Seahawks set themselves up for a touchdown after a great catch by Jermaine Kearse. I remember watching that as a Patriots fan thinking to myself, fuck, a third straight Super Bowl where a ridiculous catch is made at the end of the game. Are you kidding me? And then, after Bill Belichick doesn't call a timeout, the Seahawks, instead of running the ball with Marshawn Lynch, which on the previous play had gone down to the 1, decide, we're going to run a play that essentially is going to be a wide receiver pick play to get the ball to, I forget the wide receiver who they were throwing to in that spot. It was not Doug Baldwin for whatever reason. That didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense given that Doug Baldwin was, the Seahawks, like one of their best receivers back then. Was it for Jermaine Kearse? Off the top of my head, I don't remember. What I do remember is that Malcolm Butler stepped in front of the play, and it's a play that the Patriots had practiced against, and it's something that Matt Patricia thinks is his doing, which, as a Patriots fan, annoys me. I mean, my God, I'm so down bad as a Patriots fan today. I'm excited that Bill O'Brien is back as offensive coordinator. Anyway, Kyle writes, I think Seattle throwing at the 1 is a conspiracy theory. Hear me out. I think Goodell told Pete to make Russ the MVP instead of Lynch because Lynch made a mockery of the media. His Super Bowl MVP has to answer questions. What do you think? You know what? I like it. It's fun. Marshawn Lynch, I believe, leading up to that Super Bowl, either said thank you in response to every single question or I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined. And people made a big deal out of that. There's actually a Houston-specific example of this too, and I'm going to try to find this off the top of my head. Arian Foster, teammates. I don't know if anyone remembers this. Oh, damn, I guess I can't find the video that quickly. But there once was a time where Arian Foster, after a practice, just said over and over and over again, I'm just here trying to be the best teammate I can be. I'm just here trying to be the best teammate I can be. I'm just here trying to be the best teammate I can be. And people in Houston media got so pissed off. There once was a television station in town where you actually had sports talk conversation. I was on it the day of this news. And while I did call James Harden a douche on TV, I also stood up for Arian Foster. And I'm very proud of myself for it because I thought it was funny. And it also gave us something to talk about. I guess Arian was doing that because that's what Bill O'Brien had told players to say when they don't want to answer questions, to work it like that. But it's happened. I don't know, though, that Goodell's going to tell Pete Carroll to make Russ the MVP in that game. And I think some of the hot takes that came out of it, I get Richard Sherman not being a fan of Russell Wilson. I get some of the other Seahawks, Doug Baldwin not being a fan of Russell Wilson. I get all of those things. Golden Tate. I covered the guy. He just doesn't seem authentic. Let's start with that. We can go further down the rabbit hole. I don't know the interpersonal workings of all those guys, but there clearly was a lot of vitriol directed towards Russ. And I always thought it was crazy with the way some of the Seahawks players seem to just hate Russ. I mean, Russ was at the very least a capable quarterback during those first couple of seasons, and the Legion of Boom should have appreciated that they had somebody who could also make plays with his legs to help them out on the other side of the ball. But I can imagine being his teammate for a long period of time and thinking that there's a sense of favoritism towards him because he needs that favoritism in his corner or felt that he was entitled to it. That I could see how it would rub teammates the wrong way. 100%, especially with the way that he carried himself through third parties with all the complaining and the list of teams that he would accept the trade to. All of that stuff. That is where I understand why Richard Sherman and some others didn't like him. But the idea that they ran on the 1 yard line because they wanted Russ to get the credit, I don't subscribe to that one. Zach the Texan, Paul isn't fake news. That mustache is real. It is real. This might be the second to last day of said mustache. And I do have a little beard going on too. It's a bit of a beard stash, so it's not just a mustache. I was a little bit intimidated to go either full mustache and look like I'm Joseph Stalin, or full mustache and look like a cop, or full mustache and look like a pedo. I did not want that last part in particular. But it's swarthy. It is thick. But I haven't seen my face since 2017 without a beard. I think it's time. I think it's time to let the whiteness back out. I'm very curious as to how it's going to look. I'm probably not going to like it for a bit because I've been so used to having some scruff, some facial hair over all this time. At one point, I had a really thick beard too. When I was in Seattle during the pandemic, didn't cut my hair and let that thing grow out. I looked like a caveman. What are the biggest conspiracies in NFL history? I actually looked up some posts because I know that there are some who have some very, very, very strong takes and theories on things like Spygate. When it was announced that I was going to take over the morning show in Seattle, this maybe didn't help me out, but Mike Salk and Brock Heward, in their last show on the air, asked me, hey, if there is a take that you are willing to die on a hill for, what would it be? And I said, I will die on the hill that Spygate wasn't as big of a deal as it was made out to be. The thought was that the Patriots recorded a bunch of teams and that the recordings of those teams were used to help the Patriots when they were on defense figure out what the offense was doing, and I think vice versa from the sidelines. And during the time when the Patriots were at their best, I could understand why a lot of people believed it, because it always felt like the Patriots, from a talent perspective, weren't at the top of the NFL. But I just don't think it was as big of a deal as it was made out to be. Because I looked up the rules, and if you look up yourteamcheats.com, you'll see other teams have done this. Broncos, Cowboys in the late 90s. Those are two very successful teams from that era. And the big issue was not about the filming of the signal. It was about where the cameras were located to film the signals. And it turned into a game of telephone where people sort of lost sight of the fact that it was more about where these cameras actually were located. So the Patriots got ragged for it, and then they go undefeated during the regular season. Right after it happens, they lose in the Super Bowl to the New York Giants, of course. But I always thought that conspiracy theory that the Patriots did way more than had been intimated was always extreme. Because there's always these stories about, oh, the radios don't work. Oh, all of a sudden things aren't working out so well for us here at Gillette Stadium. I think Peyton Manning thought the locker room was bugged. There was always a paranoia and a conspiracy theory that had to do with the New England Patriots, who I think were exceptionally successful. And look, I'm not going to deny that they probably did some things that were a little bit shady, but I think that implying that's the reason that they were successful is bullshit. And I don't think that the cheating that they did was that much different than the cheating that the Houston Astros allegedly did. Zach the Texan asks, wait, call the presses. Teams cheat? Yes. and there was a website that breaks down cheating. It is, I think, just NFL teams. Let me make sure I have it correct. And I can show it to you right now, twitch.tv/Gallant says, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. Your team cheats, the definitive guide to NFL cheating. Denver Broncos have 53, by far the most of any team. But let's take a look at the teams that I've covered. Patriots have 27 here. Houston Texans. Deflategate was overblown. James Gilstrap, I'm not even going to give it any time. The Texans have had 6 players test positive for performance-enhancing drugs since 2002. The Brian Cushing one is kind of funny because he was suspended twice. And the first time that he was suspended, he said that he was overtraining. But also, the Texans have a little Deflategate involvement. Former Houston Texans quarterback David Carr said on November 3rd of 2006 that he, like several other quarterbacks, believed that Denver was one of the toughest places to play because the ball expanded slightly at the altitude and felt slick because of the lower humidity. Before a preseason game in 2006, Carr proudly admitted he instructed the Houston Ball Boys to let a little air out of the Texans' footballs. They cheated the Denver Broncos in a preseason game. That's a load of bullshit. The Texans, I believe, have been accused of tampering. There's a headset situation going on. This is interesting. Your team cheats. It's interesting because for a second it says all of these things are Texans cheaters, Texan cheating incidents, but all I see from the team that's been known as Boy Scouts are that they've had some PEDs, and I guess that they did their own version of Deflategate in 2006. All right. What else do we have? How about the Seattle Seahawks? The other team I covered. PEDs. Oh, yeah, you had the Adderall. Seattle Seahawks, am I right? You had PracticeGate where the Seahawks were practicing too hard. Multiple times. 2012, 2014, 2016. There's InjuryGate where Richard Sherman, I guess, was never listed on the injury report despite having a significant knee injury all season long. There was a chance that the Seahawks could have lost a second-round draft pick as a result of failing to disclose the knee injury to Richard Sherman. There's some concussions, $100,000 fined in 2017 for violating the concussion protocol with quarterback Russell Wilson in a November 9th, 2017 game. No, it's fine. He had his concussion water. You guys just don't get it. What else do we have? What other teams do you guys want to see? B. Hannon on Twitch wants to know if the 49ers cheated in Super Bowl 47. That was a big conspiracy for a while, that it killed the momentum of the Baltimore Ravens in that game. Smoke and Joe says, do you think Bill O'Brien had blackmail on the McNairs to keep his job all those years? I'm not going to give you many details on this. I don't think it was blackmail, but there is a very interesting story about a power struggle that took place in the Texans organization. And sadly, I do not have the sources to corroborate it. I do believe that it happened, though. I would just ask why when general manager Rick Smith said it's a comma, not a period, marking his end with the Texans. I would just ask why he didn't come back then, especially since Bill O'Brien's gone. And here we stand right now. Maybe he'll come back someday down the road. I don't know. But something went down. And it helped Bill O'Brien. Because I think there was a time in 2017 where there was a chance that both guys would be gone, or it was going to be one or the other. And I know that while that scandal was taking place, I was sort of led along for a ride. I was under the impression that O'Brien was potentially gone, and that didn't end up happening, obviously. And I did feel a little bit used, but that's what sources do. You know, they like to get things out there. I suppose that at this point in time, I could check the San Francisco 49ers. Is that something that they were alleged to have done? No, they cheated the salary cap in 2000. In the 1990s, they were using Stickum. That's Jerry Rice. In the 80s, they were spraying silicone on their shirts. And, of course, they've got some PED issues of their own. Rick Smith did do a pretty good job with the first-round picks that he made. I'm looking up other conspiracy theories here, because those are the NFL conspiracies that we are aware of. Death of Nero. In ancient times, widespread conspiracy theories were circulated pertaining to the death of the Roman Emperor Nero, who committed suicide in 68 AD. Some of those theories claimed he had actually faked his death and was secretly still alive, but in hiding, plotting to return and establish his reign once more. There's the New World Order. States that a group of international elites controls governments, industry, and media organizations with the goal of establishing global hegemony. Well, that's fun. There's a lot of stuff out there. How about some of the other NFL scandals, though? I clicked on the wrong link as far as the tabs that I got open. How about this? A Toronto Mail and Globe reporter suggested that the New York Giants somehow managed to intercept radio transmissions from the opposing sides during the 2001 NFL playoffs. Per the piece, it helped the Giants notch postseason victories over the Eagles and Vikings. They beat Minnesota 41-0. Former NFL player Bubba Smith believes that Super Bowl III was rigged in favor of the New York Jets because of how bad the AFL looked in the first couple of Super Bowls. Smoke and Joe suggest Tupac's still alive. Yeah, that one's brought up a lot. Elvis still alive, too. I guess, why would he hide this long? I would ask for both of them. They're famous musicians / actors. Why would they never find their way back into the limelight? There's a couple of tanking theories about the Colts perhaps tanking. Super Bowl 50, per some, may have been rigged because the wife of a replay assistant for that game intended as a Broncos fan. Jimmy Hoffa's remains may have been buried underneath the west end of Giants Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. How about that? Oh, here we go. There's the lights out at the Super Bowl one on this list. The Baltimore Ravens jumped out to a 28-6 lead over the San Francisco 49ers in the third quarter of Super Bowl 47, probably leading some viewers to seek out other programming before the lights at the Superdome went out. The power outage interrupted play for over a half hour, and it gave the Niners an opportunity to regroup. San Francisco embarked on a rally that came up just short. Ray Lewis thought it was a bit strange that a zillion-dollar company would experience such a technical failure on that organization's biggest night of the year. Yeah, but here's the other thing. The Superdome's kind of a shithole, right? It's been around for a while. It's been beat up by a couple of hurricanes and stuff. I don't know. I don't know about that one being something that was fixed. Oh, Super Bowl 51 was fixed. Okay. Did Donald Trump rig the game because Tom Brady had a President Donald Trump hat in his locker? Wow, that's a really fun one. PED tests, concussions, the league is fixed, period. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, appreciate y'all for tuning in for today's edition, a wacky edition of the Gallant Says podcast, which you can catch weekdays 1 to 1:30 on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, and youtube.com/Paul Gallant. You can also get it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. I think I said everything. Yes, I did. So long, farewell, have yourselves a